Hey everybody, second bowl demo. This time we're going with a little bit of a bigger ball of clay. This is about 3.5 pounds of clay. With my last video, if you didn't see it, go ahead and go back. I went with more of a beginner bowl. I left you a wide bottom. This is about 2.5 to 3 pounds. This one I think I'm gonna go ahead and try and get it to that you're using a little bit more clay so you don't have a lot to trim off. So with that larger piece of clay, I am going to make sure that I cone up and down. As I'd mentioned before, coning up and down will actually help you wedge your clay, which, as a lot of you know, I've mentioned several times, I hate wedging clay. Ideally, you're supposed to wedge each ball of clay 100 times. I have no time and no patience to be doing that. So I always talk here about what type of human you are. That's not the type of human that I am. So I go ahead and I scoop up from the bottom. Now what happens when you get this volcano? Pro tip, when you get that volcano, the reason it's happening is that your wet clay is riding around the dry clay that's on the inside. So what we want to do is we want to expose this dry clay so we can add some water to it. So what I do is I almost peel the clay back. So I leave my thumb in the hole because I don't want that to close up. I take the side of my right hand and I'm literally peeling back, you might be able to see it, to expose that dry clay. Now, I'm not gonna lie, if your clay is super wet and you wanna let that volcano close, go ahead. But if you're trying to sort of wedge your clay on the wheel or mix it up, maybe some of your clay is a little wetter than other parts of it, you want to do this sort of peel back sort of method. So as you see, I'm trading the clay that's on the top and I'm bringing it down to the bottom, and I'm often exposing, and what it will also do, it'll help you pop those air bubbles. So for the 100 times you are supposed to wedge clay, I tend to cone up and down a few times. If at one point I get down to the sort of meditative, just staying in one spot sort of part, and it doesn't quite get centered, it means I'm a little uneven somewhere. So I'll actually cone up just a little bit, just to kind of bring that uneven part to the top. And I will cone down. Okay, so now we're ready to open up. I'm gonna open up a little less deep as I did before, because I want to get myself a good foot on this one. I just want to make it so that you don't care about me as much as you do what I'm throwing. So I put my pin tool down. That's a good thickness right there. Wet my hands again. I'm going to go on in. Now, I'm using my finger to open up, mostly because I can't really grab the sponge due to my silly injury here. Go ahead and compress the floor quite a few times. Okay. Now before I kind of did like a short and wide bowl, I try and go a little higher, make a little bit more of almost a salad bowl, maybe something that doesn't have as much roundness to it. So I start down on the bottom, and what I realize, guys, I will hang out down on the bottom here with my wheel going a little slower, and I'll scoop up the clay, and then it's time for me to start to pull. And if you notice, I'll start to speed my wheel up, leaving my lip thick, because remember, we want to stretch that out. Start down here again. I'm compressing the floor on the inside as I go. It helps me avoid that sort of moat that tends to happen while your inside hand is waiting for your outside hand to catch up with it. That water again. Start down here again. Now I'm going in a lot more narrow than I did for the other bowl. I'm slowing my wheel down. But remember, your hand has to go at the same speed as your wheel. So if your wheel slows down, your hand has to slow down. Think about a record player, the 33, the 45, the 78. 78 meant you got 78 rotations per minute, I think. And the 33 went faster. That was your giant Grease album when you were a kid. I listened to 400 times. So now I'm starting to put a little bit more pressure on my inside hand. I'm starting to stretch it out just a little bit. Compressing that lip, making sure that lip is gonna hold on and support the sides of the walls that I'm creating. I want you guys to see the inside. So this bowl, I opened up a little wider. This one, I'm opening up, super careful when your clay is wet, a little narrower. So you see where that round 4-inch circle is down in the bottom? That's about where I want my foot. With this bowl, I decided before I started that I want it to have a lot of air underneath it, whereas that other one is gonna be a little short and flat. It's gonna look like it's kind of like a guy just sitting on a table, but this one is gonna be a little more lifting off. So I'm gonna get back in here again, get as much clay as I can up there. The square vat is not advantageous for my situation here, but okay, remember we're fighting against that centripetal force. So we want to make sure that we're always going up as we're going out. So with those shaping pulls, which are the pulls that you're not really thinning out the clay, you're stretching it. And by stretching it, you're thinning it out, but you don't want to just go out. The centripetal force will make it go down. You want to always be going up as you're shaping. So now we're going to go in with our rubber rib right here. We're going to stretch it out. We're going to start out here and decide where we want the outside to end. Where we want the top, how wide we want the opening to be. Sorry, I would eventually get it. And I'm gonna start to stretch. I'm gonna start to stretch. Hand is on the opposite. I'm looking at the profile of my pot so I can get a nice smooth transition. Take off the jaja, put that back into your, now I'm gonna go up. And this up motion is really just fixing that beginner bump. Getting a little bit of air underneath there. Now, when you're using your rib, I want you to come all the way off. If you just pull away here, chances are it's gonna stick and you're gonna screw up your lip. So always come all the way off. I had an old teacher years ago said, pretend there's an extra 1/2 inch of clay up on the top and have your fingers meet up there. It'll, number one, make sure you come off of your pot at the same time, but it'll also avoid you to have a pointy lip. And chipped lips happen when it's super thin, and it's just more dangerous when we flip it upside down and we try and trim it. That lip is gonna chip as well. So we wanna have a good lip. So now I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna make this almost sort of match that other bowl. Another day we'll do nesting bowls, which is what we teach our second session people. A lot of math involved. I'm gonna give it a little bit more of a lip like that. I'm gonna get the water out of the inside, make sure that beginner bump is kind of not happening. Go on in here, take off the excess. I'm gonna show you guys the difference between the amount of space I have going on underneath these. So as you get better, see how you've got less clay here than here? My wall is able to sort of support this going out a little as you get a little better. Now, pro tip, what you can do, you can actually heat gun this, or you can let it sit for a little while longer. And then you can go ahead and stretch it out even more. So when you see those bowls that are death-defying the foot, so like the foot is this narrow and the bowl goes out here and you're like, how'd you get that to happen without flopping? Usually a heat gun, usually some time, we'll let it sit there and set up a little bit so that your clay is able to really stretch out a little more. Let's see what I can do here without, I'm gonna just call it a pot. As we say here, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna call it a pot. All right, guys, so the next video, I'll be trimming both of these bowls and you guys, you'll see the magic. Have a great day. Remember, if you love my videos or just find me stupidly annoying and you want to be more annoyed by hearing my voice, go ahead and subscribe. We're trying to hit that 1,000 subscribers and kind of create a bunch of clay addicts across the country. Maybe the world. Who knows? Have a great day, guys. Bye.